Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 87 of the I Rock Knits podcast. I feel like I've gone back to the 80s with huge shoulders on this giant sweater. The drop sleeves just make me look like, look at that. It's an illusion. I don't have linebacker shoulders, but I wanted to wear the sheep today. Put on my light up necklace for all of you, my earrings. Being a little silly getting ready around here. The only one here to appreciate it is Cody, so it's not getting a lot of positive feedback on my crazy here. But welcome. I'm so glad that all of you are taking a moment to watch the podcast. It is a busy Christmas season, so I'm going to assume that some of you won't see this until after the holidays. But in that event, I just want to wish you all the Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We are finally through 2021, and I am hoping that 2022 gets better for all of us. It seems like, who came to visit? It seems like we've been in this pandemic situation for a long time. I know we're all tired of wearing masks everywhere, and being fearful and careful around people, it's just been hard, I think. So I just want to kind of have a cheery podcast here and get it uploaded for all of you. I have a new pattern to share that I'm really excited about. I thought I would start today with some recommendations of some shows I've been watching. I'm doing a ton of knitting on a scrappy blanket. If you're watching my Vlogmas, you'll have seen the updates on that. And I thought I would insert this so you could all see how far I've gotten on the blanket here. So the last time I showed it, I was at the Brownie Sunday, and here was where I was at before that. And that orange marker is where I picked it up at in November. So I've doubled it, definitely doubled it. It's too big for the screen, but you can kind of get an idea of how big it's getting. Yeah, it's a lot of knitting. The needle is not super big. I'm holding fingering weight double. This is a US size 6 needle, and I am holding a skein of natural yarn with scraps so that you get that kind of marled look all the way down. And it is kind of a takeoff on the Bits and Bobs blanket by Kay Jones. I just cast on and am doing fisherman's rib, which I already knew how to do. And I put up a little video tutorial last week in the podcast on weaving in ends on fisherman's rib and how I weave in the ends to hide them along the edges of this. I just have 2 selvage stitches, which are just knits. And then I just do fisherman's rib the whole way. Knit one in the row below. Knit one in the row below, the whole over and back and over and back, just completely mindless. So it's turning out. I want to get to 60 inches. I'm guessing that I'm at about 40 something now. I'm going to say 42 maybe. So I have quite a bit to go this week to get there. If I can add 2 inches a night, then I would, by Friday, it will be at maybe 50 inches, and then I will get it to Stevie after the holiday. He doesn't care if he's getting it or not. I'm sure he's not waiting with bated 25-year-old man from his girlfriend's mother. So I am really trying to power through at night and get a number of things watched. Well, I have a whole list of things to watch. Do you guys keep lists of things that you should watch, and then something on Netflix will be recommended for you and you'll try it? And that's what happened here. So I watched the David Foster documentary. He's a musician, producer, and it was like an 1.5 to 2 hour show on his life, and it was fascinating, really interesting. He brought a lot of the music of my life into being, right? He worked with lots of musicians, and he's still working as an older gentleman, but he's trying to get a show on Broadway, and that was just a really good. And because I've been watching these documentaries, I watched the one about Rita Moreno. I got a recommendation to watch one about Paris Hilton, And she does not fascinate me. It's not someone that I would, but the little trailer looked interesting. And she was kidnapped. Her parents hired people to come in the middle of the night and take her away to a kind of a reform school. And now she's working with other people who were abused by this reform school in Provo, Utah. I couldn't stop watching. I mean, she's, a millionaire many times over and has all kinds of companies and things that she works with. But her childhood, she was very rebellious and was going out and partying and going to bars and stuff. And then her parents sent her away to a number of places. And then she'd run away because, they were not all nice places to be. And so then eventually they had her kidnapped, and I didn't know that was a thing. And this school is still in existence. So anyway, I would recommend that one. It was not something I ever thought I would click on, but how the trailer comes up when you're just sitting there and the Netflix is going, and I think I was editing Vlogmas and kind of looked at it and I was like, okay, I'll click play on that. And it was really good. And then the last thing I watched is a movie called Finding You, about a young girl who's a violinist, and she's trying to get into the music school, the professional, and she tries out and she doesn't make it, and then her life is, what am I going to do? I can try out in another year. I really like to go, be a part of this consortium, but and her mother suggests that she goes to Ireland because that's where her brother went, and do kind of a study abroad. And it gets a little, hallmarky. It's romance, but she meets this popular actor on the plane, and she is not interested. She's just there to study. You know where it's going to go, but it had more depth. He's on a show over there. He tries to, court her a couple of times and she's not interested. And then eventually she goes to the set and he's doing a movie and a series with dragons and he's the star. It's kind of like he's doing a Game of Thrones type of thing. So yeah, it was good. I didn't mind it at all. Finding You. So there you go. 3 new shows that you can watch while you're around on the holiday break, maybe. Hopefully you all get a break. I have several books to talk about. I started a book called A Tale of Two Worlds by Michael Faber, and in the book they dropped the letter D from the vocabulary, and I just couldn't do it. I was struggling to listen. It was difficult in kind of me getting into that world. I don't read a lot of kind of that fantasy genre. I don't know. I did not finish it. And I gave it back on Libby and put it back in my holds list. I don't think it would be bad at a future date. I just wasn't in the headspace. Then I listened to The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown, and that was really good. It really makes you think. And if you try real hard to do things perfectly or very, very well and you don't give yourself a break all the time, yeah. And she has just a way of speaking that I really enjoy. It doesn't feel preachy. She has a nice voice to listen to on audio. So yeah, I liked that one a lot, and it did make me kind of think about how hard we try sometimes to do things correctly. Then I read The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd, and that was our book club book this month. And in December, she usually picks kind of a lighthearted, easier to read sometimes, shorter, sometimes a Christmas story, and sometimes a Christian story. My book club does take place at my church. But it has been going for 16 years, 17 years, something like that. It meets at 1 o'clock on Monday and again at 7 o'clock. It's really well attended. There are tons of people that go. You can have 20 some people there. And I started listening to this book without reading the premise. And my first response was, oh no, I don't want to read a Bible story, right? Like it just seemed like, oh, here we go. We're going to read something heavy. and it's Christmas, and I'm a Christian, but this book is fascinating. I got into it, and I talked to a friend, and I said, "Did you finish it?" And she was like, "Yes, I didn't think I was going to like it." So this is the story of Jesus between the ages of 12 and 30. Jesus is not in the Bible. And this is the story of what might have happened during that time. And he does take a wife, and the wife is the sister of Judas. And even if you have no Christian background or you're not familiar with the Bible, I think most of you would know that Jesus was betrayed by Judas, right? Because we call people Judas if they do you wrong. So it is a part of culture, I think, that you might know that. And the backstory of how that might have happened will just make your mouth drop open. And at the end, there's an author's note. And she is not saying that she truly believes that Jesus was married or that she's trying to push a feminist agenda, because Jesus's wife has definitely got some opinions of her own, and wants to live life, doesn't want to have children, and doesn't want to be in an arranged marriage, right? And she meets him in the marketplace, and he is not of her status. So we all agreed that if you read the author's note first, you might not have been so tense about what she, how it was portrayed if you are, kind of a biblical scholar. But really interesting. If you have any interest at all in that period of time and what might have happened, I don't want to spoil anything, but have any of you read the book Wicked or seen the play Wicked? And it's the backstory of the Wizard of Oz, and you're just like, oh, is that why the bad witch is the way she is? And I wouldn't have ever thought that. That is the story that she tells of Judas. And you're thinking in a completely different mind frame about him and what he was doing and why he did what he did. Very, very good. I listened to it on Audible. I didn't think I was going to like it. I thought it was going to be heavy. It's really told in story form. She obviously does a lot of research. She knows way more than I do. Like, she says in her author's note that, the palace or whatever wouldn't have been built till years later and all this stuff. I would never have known that stuff, that it wasn't quite historically accurate. So highly recommend. Just really a good book. And talk to me in the comments if you read it too and you were just like, because I really didn't think I was gonna want to read it this month. I've just been, busy, and I'm running around, and I thought it would need more concentration than it did. Just really good story. And then the last one I just finished was called Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Again, highly recommended. Lots of people reading it. I thought it was a little light, a little flippant. It is about two boys who are gay, and I don't want to give too much away. I think that's probably in the premise, though, that one is the president's son and one is a member of the royal family, and they meet and they want to be together and they can't because president's son and royal family. There is sex, there is swearing. I thought at first, I thought, I don't know about this. It seemed too lighthearted, too romancy, right, for the subject matter, I thought. And then I really got into it. I really liked the characters, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna stick with this. It's something maybe that I should know more about. I think, yeah, it was really interesting. And I kept thinking it was going to end, like, oh, that's the end, like that's how they're wrapping it all up. And then they didn't. And then I thought, oh, that's going to be the end. They're wrapping it all up. And then they didn't. So the story went on and on further than I thought it would go. Like if two people get together in a romance novel, then it's over, right? Or if two people break up, then it's over. And that is not how this showed the struggles. And I know that some of you have written me that you have a son or daughter who is gay, or a family member who is gay, and the struggles and the challenges that they go through. And so even though this is kind of lighthearted and tries to be funny, it is funny a lot of times, what happens to these characters, and they have friends and the things that they do, the antics that they do. But yeah, I'm really glad I read it. It was good, and I changed my mind multiple times throughout the book about whether or not I wanted to continue to read it. So there you go. 4 books to talk about this week. We got through it. Okay, we are going to have baking day tomorrow at my house. My husband is on his way to South Dakota. It's Sunday, to pick up my parents. So he's driving the little white truck that he bought in Florida and had shipped here for my dad. And then he did a whole kind of makeover, I would call it, on the truck. That's not what he would call it. But he changed hoses and drained fluids and, checked all the things out for my dad, and just made sure that, because it's an old truck, it's 20 years old. But it had really low miles and no rust, and my dad's truck had died. So Ross is driving to South Dakota. He left this morning. He was just pulling in there as he called me right before I started. And he's going to drive them back in their car, and then they're going to stay for a couple of days, and then they're going to drive their car home. So that way they didn't have to travel both ways or bring the truck back with one of them in each car. We were concerned about the weather and stuff. So tomorrow, Stevie and Kylie are coming over, and we're going to bake. We're going to bake with Mom. They're going to do the heavy lifting, and we're going to make some of Mom's favorites, things that my mom used to bake back in the day when she made 50 dozen cookies. I just remember my house being full of cookies. She had a Christmas coffee every year in December on a Saturday morning, and all the neighborhood ladies came. There would be 20 or 30 ladies, and our neighborhood didn't change that much over the years. People bought these at the time in the 60s, these ranch style houses, and just lived in them forever, right? And so those women became close friends of my mom's, and so she would start baking at Thanksgiving, and there would always be just hundreds of cookies to choose from. So I picked 6 or 7 that I thought the kids might like to make with her, and Kylie was like, I've never done a big baking day with Grandma and all of her recipes. And so they're going to do we'll just sit, Mom and I, and roll dough, and they'll, do the mixer and all that kind of stuff. So I thought today I would share a recipe of my mom's. So I'm going to share. Well, that was ironic. I got a phone call from my daughter to set up what time they're coming to make the cookies. So we're still working things out on my end here, but I'm going to share my mom's Snickerdoodle recipe. I always thought that my mom's cookies were the best cookies, right? It's what you grow up with. I think my mom's Spritz are better. I think, and so we're going to try to replicate some of that. And her Snickerdoodles include a cup of shortening, 1.5 cups of sugar, 2 eggs, 2 3/4 cups of flour, some salt, some baking soda, and then the traditional cream of tartar. And then you roll the balls in cinnamon sugar. And these are flat, little kind of crackle topped but soft Snickerdoodles. You just put them in a 400-degree oven for 8 to 10 minutes. This recipe makes 5 dozen little 2-inch cookies, but we used to make them bigger, if I remember right. Ours were more like 3-inch cookies. So there's your recipe of the day. I have a couple, 3 CORI'S stories today, and so I thought I'd kind of put them in the middle this time instead of at the end. So the first little story that I want to tell is because Kylie just called, and we had an encounter last week. So I have hurt my back a little bit, and don't know why it's acting up the way it is, but I carried some stuff up from the basement, empty boxes and bows and ribbons and wrapping paper, so nothing heavy. But then I wrapped. Last Sunday I wrapped and wrapped and wrapped. You got, yeah, good boy. Lay down, good boy. And my back started getting sore, and it was starting to hurt my low back. And I have had problems in the past. I've had radio frequency ablations where they go in and burn the nerves in your low back. And it's been a couple years since I have not been exercising as hard. walking at the dog park, and I'm being much more careful. I haven't had any problems since March of 2020. It's just been great. So I started to sit down on a stool and wrap sitting, but by evening my back was really hurting. The next day it hurt. The next day it hurt. And then on the third day, I could not stand upright when I got out of bed. I was just hunched over and it was really bothering me. Anyway, so I've been sitting on those rice bags, right? I heat them up in the microwave and I've been sitting on them. But I was talking to Kylie and I said, I need to be sitting on the hot pad, the heating pad, because it's a pain. Once the heat goes away, then you got to go in and, heat it up again. And I was struggling to walk a bit. And so I said, if a girl had to look for a heating pad in her mom's house, where would a girl look? Because I remember that she used to use it back in the day when she would have cramps. And she was like, well, if I had to look, I would look on the far side of my bed on the floor or under my bed. And I was like, that is not where I would look at all. I would look in the spare bathroom under the sink where the humidifier is, right? That's where I would look. And I said to Ross, will you go upstairs? And he's like, where should I look? And I said, well, Kylie says under the bed. 2 minutes later, he came down and he said, where'd you find it? Was it under the cabinets in the spare bathroom? And he's like, no, it was under her bed. I never would have found it. Like literally, I never would have found it because she hasn't lived in that bedroom for like 5 or 6 years. And, she has come home to stay a couple of times, but not literally hasn't lived in that bedroom. And so it's clean and we don't go in there. I never would have found the heating pad. So it was just deja vu that in that moment, I thought to tell her that my back was hurting and that I wanted the heating pad, which has been lovely because you can just turn it on and turn it off and sit on it. And my back is much better, but it is not, it's not good yet. It's still tight when I wake up in the morning. I do a lot of stretching. So I do have a call in to the pain clinic, which is where my back doctor is. I can get in January. So I will see what he has to say. I'm assuming that since it's been 2 years, he's going to say we should take an MRI or a X-ray and see what it looks like now. It's just my facets are sitting on top of one another and there are nerves that run in between there. So it's not really in my spine. I mean, it's attached, but it's those little horned things at the bottom that are compressed. And that could be from gymnastics. It could be from arthritis, but it is my low back. So anyway, heating pad, story number 1. Second story, I ordered some gift cards from different places around town. And one of the places that I ordered a gift card from was the knitting store, Woolen. And I have some gifts to give to friends and different people. And so I had ordered gift cards. And then, darn it anyway, in Stillwater had a sale. If you bought $100 in gift cards, you got $20 off. And I am going to be working at the sweater camp in January. And I thought, gosh, if they would split those up into smaller gift cards for me, I could give them to friends and then I could spend the money when I'm there in December and save $20. And that would be supporting them before Christmas. And so I thought, okay, I'll buy that. And then I went about my days and I got busy and I kind of forgot where I'd bought and what I'd bought. And I was looking at my PayPal account, which is where my money comes in from all my pattern sales from my website and Etsy. It all goes into my PayPal. And I was looking at my total and figuring out I had to pay my tech editor and my graphic designer, my website developer, my bills, right? And so I was just looking at that and I noticed that there was a payment to Woolen in there for $100. And I had printed out that gift card and laid it, they'd emailed it to me and laid it on the thing. And I was like, that's weird. I spent $25. It's right here. It says $25, but I got charged $100. Well, I better call, right? So I called Angel, who's a dear, and I was like, hey, I just, wanted to let you know that I think I got mischarged on this amount. And she's like, well, that's weird. That shouldn't have happened. And I was like, yeah, I know. I think it was weird too. And then she's like, well, let me look it up. And she's on the computer. I can hear her typing away. And she says, I don't want to give anything away, but someone may be getting a gift card as a present, maybe? And I'm like, oh my Lord. My husband bought me a gift card. It's on my list, something that I want, to the yarn store. And we have 2 PayPal accounts, and whichever one you use last is the one that comes up, right? Like it just automatically logs in when you're checking out. And so he checked out of my account on our home computer, and I'm sure he didn't even think of it, right? That it would come out of my account, that it wasn't coming out of our household one, it was coming out of. So she's like, do you want me to tell you who I said, no, don't, no, we're not going to go there. I'm just going to obviously forget that this conversation ever. I was kind of embarrassed because I was kind of accusing them of overcharging me, which is, anyway, I was embarrassed. I was kind of like, oh man, sorry, Angel. And she's like, no, that's fine. Sometimes that just comes up, and that's what I thought too, right? He checked out. I've been buying stuff. I'm logged into their system. I bought a $25 gift card for a friend. And then he went in, logged in, and it just took it out of my PayPal. And so then I get to go shopping after Christmas, but I have to practice my really surprised face. Story number 2. Story number 3. Yesterday we went and saw May in Lake City at the care center, and we took her out to lunch. So we got her into my brother-in-law's car, which she does not stand well at all. So she's in a wheelchair. And so they could get her up, and then she just had to shift into the car and then shift back to the wheelchair. But we went to a local little family restaurant where we could just wheel her in. There were no steps or anything. Afterwards, she wanted to go back to Joe's house, and we could not take her. She is now on hospice because she does not want to be treated for the congestive heart failure. So her she is filled up with fluid. She was at the Mayo Clinic for days and days, and they got it reduced, and she's on the medication, but it will fill again, and she doesn't want to go back to the Mayo Clinic. She's 92 tomorrow, and she didn't like it there. She was unhappy, and she just has decided. So the nursing home gave us the option to put her on hospice because of the lack of staffing that's going on everywhere. She would get extra care for a longer period of time, probably, because it's not imminent. But someone would come in, they would start treating, her, they would help with her care, a chaplain comes to visit, those kinds of things, right? And so she really wanted to go to Joe's house, but he's got steps to get into his house. And he said, we can't do it, Mom. Last time we tried, you fell and we couldn't get you up, and we almost had to call the fire department. We can't take you. And she was really disappointed. But he said, we can go back to the home and we can sit in the front where they have like just a little reception area, and they have a little fireplace there, and they have a tree. And we had opened some presents that we had given her at the restaurant, but then Joe and Kaylee had a couple things for her to wrap, and she was really disappointed. But we went back, and she unwrapped her presents, and we sat in there for a few minutes and visited, and then we all said goodbye because she got really tired out, which we kind of knew would probably happen. She needed to take a nap. Anyway, then we drove the 2 hours home. So we drove 2 hours down, spent 2 hours with them, and then we drove the 2 hours back. And we got home about, 5 o'clock. And we were both just beat. We were just tired, right? We'd hauled stuff out to the car to take with us, and we had dropped Cody at daycare, and I said, what are we going to do for supper? And he said, I don't know. I don't know. He said, we could just take something out of the freezer. And I said, as I often do, or we could just have pizza. And he said, I don't want pizza. He never wants pizza. He wants to eat pizza out where he can have beer and salad, and he doesn't want to have pizza at home, and he doesn't want to bring in pizza. He just has his thing. And so he showered, and then I got, changed my clothes, and we sat down and we started watching Yellowstone. which we had to turn off because it's so violent, and we're in season 2, and if you're watching it, you know that there's a scene with Beth that I was like, I can't watch this. So I left the room and let him finish, and then I came back out and I said, it's 7:45 and we haven't had supper, and he's like, yeah, we need to eat. And I sat down, and he went in the bedroom, and he came back out fully dressed. He had on a t-shirt and like sweatpants. He came on, he was like, okay, we can go. And I'm like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to go out. And he's like, I thought that you wanted to eat. I said, yeah, I want to have toast or cereal or sandwich, right? We can just make something here. So he said, oh yeah, I don't want to go out either. Because we'd eaten out for lunch. And so he says, I think there's macaroni and cheese in the pantry. You used to make macaroni and cheese for lunch. And I did. I do sometimes make macaroni and cheese. And he's like, I can make that. I said, go for it. And we usually put an envelope of tuna in our mac and cheese, so it makes like just a hot dish. And I was like, great. If he wants to make that, that's fine, right? We can have toast or piece of bread if he wants. He loves toast. And so he's out there, and he's like, should I make 2 boxes? And I was like, we have 2 boxes? Yeah. Okay. So he makes 2 boxes of macaroni and cheese, and he gets it all made, and he's proud because he's just learning to cook, right? If you're not watching my Vlogmas, I've talked about this, but he really wants to learn to do more cooking. Has never done any. I sit down, and he put it in a bowl. We're sitting at the counter, and I cannot believe that the noodles aren't cooked, right? Like, they're chewy, like almost crunchy, like they're not. And I said, I ate a couple bites. I said, Ross, the noodles aren't cooked. I did it for 8 minutes. And I said, yeah, but you got to try one, or you got to check, like you should be able to see that they're not kind of more translucent or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. I used 1 gluten-free box and 1 regular box. We buy Annie's gluten-free mac and cheese. That's what I like. Sometimes I eat gluten-free. I used to eat gluten-free exclusively. Anymore, he doesn't like to eat gluten-free, so a lot of times I don't. I said, oh yeah, no, you cannot mix. You can't mix box. They have different like cooking time. Like, so some of the noodles were good, seemed cooked, and some of the noodles were not good. And he ate a whole bowl, and I gave mine to the dog. I was like, I can't eat this, right? Like, whatever. He tried. But I said, in those moments, that's when you ask me, you say there are 2 different kinds of boxes, and do I really cook them for 8 minutes? Because I know all those things, and you just need to check in, because if you want to learn, he's like, well, lesson learned. So I thought I would share with all of you that the Eichelbergers, big Saturday meal, uncooked macaroni and cheese. Oh, the poor guy. He just doesn't know. Like, he literally does not know things like that you should know, right? Like, it just surprises me about cooking, about putting something in the crock pot or putting it in a pan, what kind of pan to use. And like, he started to help me cut, and he picks the wrong knife, right? Like, does it matter what knife you use? No. You can cut with anything, right? But there are just sometimes knives that work better. Different blades, different knives work. And I just think he doesn't know. He was cutting something the other night, and I went over and I just took a different knife out of the drawer, and I was like, this one will make your job much quicker, much easier. I'm fine with this one. And I was like, okay. So anyway, I had 3 little funny stories, and I thought I'm going to share them all on the podcast. Maybe make some people laugh this time of year. I have a couple of tips and tricks. The first one is I've had 2 people reach out and ask me if they can knit my new sock collection toe up. And I might have covered this before, but I couldn't remember if I talked about it. So all the socks in the socks collection, there are 8 socks, 4 DK and 4 fingering, are written to be knit top down with double pointed needles, because that's how I knit, right? I learned on double points. That's how I knit my socks. I'm fast on double points. But you can use any needle you want. You can definitely go toe up. It is no problem. All of the socks are pretty much reversible from the other direction with the stitch patterns. And so you could certainly, the only one that it'd be a little tricky is the Bartlett sock, because that's got that road on it, the Friendship Road slip, the twisted stitch, and it starts at the top and comes down. So you would have to start it at the toe and go up in the opposite direction. But there is a right foot and a left foot in the pattern, and so you would just use the other one. It should work just fine. But I did have some people, 2 people, reach out and say, would it be hard? And no, it wouldn't be hard, especially if you knit toe-up socks all the time. You know how to make your toe, and then you just start in with the stitch pattern. And then I did also have a person reach out and ask me what video to watch on YouTube to learn how to do color work for the Churchill Avenue hat and mittens. She had not done color work before, and so I looked up 2 different color work tutorials. And the first one is by Roxanne Richardson, who we all know and love, and it is Intro to Stranded Color Work on YouTube. And the second one is by Suzanne Bryann, and it is called Stranded Knitting Methods of Holding Yarns. So depending on how you tension your yarn and how you want to hold your yarn, that one is excellent. And I don't know that I shared those, but I do have links in the patterns. So if you haven't bought the patterns yet, you wouldn't know that there was a video in there to show you how to actually work the stitches. I try to link patterns in, or link videos in almost all my patterns. So if you were still thinking about knitting the Churchill Avenue mittens and hat and you haven't done a lot of color work, it's 2 by 2 the whole way. Stockinette, so you're only knitting, so you don't have to, and you can just drop and pick up the yarn. Knit 2 with the main color, knit 2 with the contrast color. You can drop and pick up the yarn the whole way. But if you're looking for videos on how to better navigate that, those are the 2 that I would share. I have a couple of things that I saw on the internet, and oh, are they cute? Man, are people creative. The first one is called Barn Owl by Megan Lapp, and her design company name is called Crafty Intentions. I'll put a picture in. This literally looks like a real owl flying. It's crochet. It came out in December, and it is literally an owl. I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. It is so neat. If you are a crocheter and you like to make, toys and animals and things, I think a kid would love this hanging in their room. It's just stunning. The second pattern that I saw is called Gingerbread Mittens by Sonja.nyk, and I saw these on Instagram. And I can't find them on Ravelry, but it's because she doesn't have a link in her Instagram profile to where to find them on Ravelry. And I didn't spend a ton of time looking. Like, I just Googled her name in Ravelry, and I Googled gingerbread mittens, and they didn't come up. But I can tell her, she's from a different country, and her Instagram is written in a different language. And I don't know what the language is to look up that as well, but these are so cute. They're just absolutely fun. So she has socks and mittens now. They've got a Latvian braid on them, and then they've got the little gingerbread people. I just thought they were so cute. So someone finds them on Ravelry, put a comment in the show notes or underneath the video and let me know, and I will link them, because maybe I can spend a little more time looking, but I was kind of in a hurry this morning to get this recorded. I just thought they're just so cute. And the last one that I saw is this pattern called Morsels by Shannon Squire, and it is little tiny mittens, but they're on little tiny hangers. I would hope that in the pattern there'd be a link. Shannon Squire is with Knitted Wit. She does the Knitted Wit yarn, and these are just darling. They would make the cutest little ornaments. They would make package decorations. darling. And so I thought I will share that as well. So 3 patterns, things that I saw on the internet. I'm having a knit along starting now. Starting last week when the sock patterns went live on the 7th of December, I announced on Instagram and put a thread in the Ravelry group that any pattern, 1 sock or the hat or the cowl of any of the 10 patterns gets you an entry into a knit along. And that is going to be running all through January and all through February. And I'm really hoping that some people decide to cast on either the DK or the fingering weight socks or the hat and the cowl. You can get as many entries as you want, and you can also win prizes by participating just by talking to people. So I left the thread open. You can chat in the thread. You can put your finished objects in the thread, and then I will draw from the entire thread. So if you are a person who likes to be in a Ravelry group and likes to talk to people in a Ravelry group, you can get points for liking someone's, finished sock or whatever. You can post pictures of partially completed socks, and then also on Instagram using the hashtag pairs of socks collection. And so I will draw off of Instagram and off of Ravelry, and I'm going to be giving away grand prizes of gift certificates, $25 gift certificates. I also have some yarn to give away and some project bags to give away. And if anybody out there is a bag maker or a yarn dyer or a pattern person and wants to donate, I will give away whatever I can I can garner from people. But yeah, I decided to do a knit along at the beginning of the year. I think a lot of people do a Christmas Eve or Christmas Day cast on, and some people do a New Year's Day, January 1st, taking down the tree, whatever you do, and then you sit down and cast on a new thing. So I was hoping that I could encourage people to cast on the socks or the hat or the cowl from that 10 pattern sock collection, which is still on sale. If you go to Ravelry, it is marked at the top of the pattern notes, the code and what to type in. So you can get the 4 patterns for $6. You can get the 10 patterns for $8. Use the code PAIR no matter how you want to check out. I have the socks marked down by $1 each if you just want an individual sock using the code PAIR, but also on Etsy they're marked down. I cannot use coupon codes and mark things down on Love Crafts, but they're available there and on my website. So you should be able to use the code, get whatever piece of the pairs of socks collection that you want, the 4 DK or the 4 fingering. Those are in there as ebooks, so you can buy all 4 for the price of 1. And then you could buy the 10 pattern collection for the price of less than 2 patterns. So I'm trying to make it financially feasible for people to participate by getting the patterns for cheap but till the end of the month. And then, and I'll see, maybe I'll leave those codes up until the end of the knit along. That's probably what I'll do, is leave the codes that, up there till the end of February so that people that want to participate don't have to spend a ton of money. But I would really like to see some of those patterns knit up. It would be really fun for me to see people knitting up those patterns. So you can just continue to participate. Even if you finish your socks and you want to go in and just look at other people's stuff and comment and chat in there, then I will give just for participation. That way, if someone doesn't have time or doesn't like to knit socks, although there is a hat and a cowl. So, all right, go join the knit along. Go in and post something right away as soon as you see this. Let's talk about my new pattern. So this is called the Dear Friends Cowl. And this is the design that I did with Kingdom Fleece and Fiber Works. And she is a small knitting mill, yarn mill, what would you call it? Fiber mill, where they make roving and they make yarn. And she purchased this mill in pieces and parts, from what I can tell, and had it shipped out east, and then they re-put it together and they opened up this small mill, and then she's the one that was in the accident with the cow, remember, and she got hit and she kind of had a stroke and kind of lost use of one of her hands, and so they had to shut the mill down. And then now it's back up and running, and she's back to trying to regrow her business. So go look at her website, Kingdom Fleece and Fiber Works, especially if you're a spinner, because I wrote this pattern for her Advent where she sent out 2 ounces of fiber every week. I didn't get the Advent because I don't spin, but she spun up yarn for me to use, and I knit. You got different colors each week, and then you could spin it up into DK or heavier yarn, and then you could knit the cowl. So this is the original one. These are all the colors that she sent me, but they're not the colors that were in the kit. So she just spun yarn for me so that I could knit one up in hand spun yarn, but the colors in the kit needed to be a surprise on December 1st. So the photo on Ravelry of this cowl is in black and white so that we didn't give away what people's colors were as they were opening each week, right? And so this was just a kind of a practice sample of all the different colors, and it is a 2-color brioche, but you're making a long strip. That's it. Back and forth, back and forth. And I'll try to put a picture in here of what that looks like. And then you fold the strip back on the top half, and I'll put a picture in. And then you bring that folded edge around and you attach it. So see how I folded it back here, and then you bring it around and you attach it right here by just sewing buttons on. And then you just put it over your head. So this is a sample I made out of DK weight yarn, and this is a sample I made out of chunky yarn. So the chunky yarn was Ella Ray Chunky, and I had 3 kind of leftover colorways, the brown, kind of the rust orange, and the green. And so I striped it because that's really how it was meant to be. The colors were meant to be done striped so that you used up your yarn from the Advent calendar. And you can use either side. So this is the purple side, and then this would be the color side. So you could do the really bright side because brioche has kind of a right side, wrong side, but they're both right sides. You can pick which one. And 2-color brioche is easier than 1-color brioche. It is easier to see, and you're not carrying colors in 2 hands. You're only working across the row in the 1 color, and then you're sliding your stitches back and working again across the row in the 2nd color. So only 1 color at a time, and you can really visualize brioche when you have 2 colors going on. I find it so much easier to teach someone 2-color brioche than 1 because you know what you've done. And there are lots of tutorials out there, but if you've always wanted to learn and try it, I've got a video in the pattern, and you're just making a straight piece. So there aren't increases and decreases going on yet, so it makes it super simple. So I originally made this one where you just start and you knit a little reverse stockinette, so it just rolls at the bottom here, and then you go up and bring it around, and this is used single, like a chunky weight yarn single, so it works up really quickly. And then this is the 2nd one I made, and I used 2 skeins of DK weight, but I held them double. Because in this one, the yarn that she sent me was DK weight, and I held it double because she sent me huge amounts of yarn that she had spun, and I didn't want to knit just a little bit of the yarn of hand spun and have so much left over, right? Like that, I wanted to use more of the yarn. I still had quite a bit left over, but I wanted to use more of the yarn, and so I held it double on the hand spun. Just spin your yarn thicker. Or if you have 2 skeins of DK weight yarn, you can get the cowl out of 2 skeins of DK weight yarn in different colors. I just held it double, I knit the tube, and I picked to the brown side to be out here, and then the orange side shows when it comes around. So you can kind of decide. And you can wear it off to the side or right down in the front. See, you can cock it all the way off to the side and put the buttons up on your shoulder. And it's just a lovely collar. It is so nice. This is a superwash hand-dyed yarn from Leadingman Fiber Arts and Suburban Stitcher. I mixed the 2, and it is just soft and gentle around your neck. It is the nicest thing. You can wear it under a coat, and then you just plop it over. It doesn't move. You don't have to unbutton it, and really a fun knit. I hope that you all love it as much as I do, because I had a tester knit it in blue and gray, and it's stunning, just stunning. Maybe I'll put her picture in, because I just loved hers. Like, I looked at it and I was like, people are gonna love that. My orange colors that dominate my life mean that I have a lot of orange and brown in my life, kind of rust colors and things, but these are beautiful in just two neutrals, you know, purple and gray, or blue and gray, or green and gray. That works fine. They don't have to be high contrast colors. They can really meld together, and you could do it in one color if you really wanted to do it in one color. This works up really quickly. It really does, because you're working on a bigger size needle, and you're just going across in a tube, and then the magic happens when you do the origami fold. And there's a tutorial of pictures, and it's just flip the top over, bring it around, and tuck it in on the side. There's nothing too fancy, but I did make sure to take pictures of that. So this is called the Dear Friends Cowl, and the idea is that you would make one for yourself, and then you would make one for a friend, and then you would both have one, but maybe in opposite colors, right? Like you would have an orange and brown one, and your friend would have a brown and orange one, or whatever their favorite colors are, because you could knit this up for a Christmas gift, a birthday gift, just a family member, your mom, your grandma. I mean, anybody can just plop this on and wear it. It'd be super, super warm and comfortable. And honestly, I think that if you did it in colors that your husband would like, it would go really nice under a coat for a man. It'd be like a short scarf, and a man could certainly wear this. I'm not being exclusive in thinking that only a female could wear this, because tucking it under a wool coat would be like wrapping a scarf up around your neck. Yeah, so that's my Dear Friend's Cowl. If you are on my newsletter, you already got the announcement and you got your coupon code, but hint, hint, you might want to go over to Ravelry or Etsy and look and see the discount on that, so that you can purchase that pattern. I did have a couple of people send me notes this week that they bought my pattern pairs of socks collection at full price as a Christmas gift. That was super nice. I had two people who paid full price, which that was really nice. And then I won't say her name, but someone gifted me $15 on Ko-fi, and that was heartwarming. Ko-fi is, or coffee, however you say it, KOFI.com. You know, I've had a number of people give me enough to buy a Diet Coke, which is just super nice. At the holidays, I'm a huge gifter. I love to buy gifts. I overindulge people. I buy gifts. I don't know what it is about the purchasing of gifts and giving of gifts that just fills me up. So I get it, but it is certainly not necessary, but very appreciated when someone does something like that to kind of make your day. So I think that's all I have for today. I want to get this edited. I have to start, I have to do some Vlogmas videoing today around the house, and getting some things that I have to run to the grocery store, buy all the baking supplies before my husband gets back with my parents. I put roast in the crock pot. I'm making roast beef spread, and I'm going to make soup for supper. We're going to have soup and sandwiches. The Vikings play tomorrow night, so we'll watch the game. And then Tuesday night, we're going to the dinner theater without the dinner because they don't have enough staff. So we're going to see Celtic music. They have a big dinner theater where they're doing the Music Man right now, but they have a smaller theater where you can go and just listen to music. And so we decided that might be a nice thing to do with my parents on Tuesday night and before they go home. So we're going to go listen to some Celtic music. I think it should be really fun. I think they do it kind of as a little story. And yeah, so I'm excited about some of the gifts I'm giving for Christmas. I'm going to give my mom the blue plaid blanket and pillow because she just redid her like front room, and she bought like a little blue denim love seat. And I was in the basement, and I have so many samples of all of my stuff. And I thought, Mom would like use this blanket and pillow on her new couch if I gave it to her. So I'm going to give her that. And I'm trying to knit a sweater for her too. I don't think I'm going to get it done because I'm trying to finish that blanket for Stevie. I have socks for Ross and Kylie. I have a hat for Ross. I have a hat for Stevie. So yeah, I'm just knitting every spare minute. I'm just trying to knit, finish things up, get things done. People can get stuff after Christmas. I don't care, right? That's fine with me. But I know Ross and Kylie both will say, we don't need any more socks, but these were knit way last spring when my thumbs started feeling better. So I would love to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know what you're doing for Christmas. We are not celebrating with my family in Sioux Falls. We're not going to Sioux Falls. We have family members that are unvaccinated, and as most of you know, I lost a cousin and Ross lost a cousin, and they were both unvaccinated, and that is the saddest thing, to go to that funeral. And my brother-in-law yesterday had 2 employees at his work, a 21-year-old boy and a 32-year-old man, both unvaccinated, that died in the last 2 weeks. And they were in the ICU for weeks and weeks and weeks. And he was pretty shook up yesterday. And I thought, man, you know, going into the holidays and losing people, having those members not be there, just really pulls at your heartstrings. So we made the decision not to gather with everyone. Mom and Dad are going to come here, and we're mostly going to just stay in the house. You know, we're going to bake cookies and visit and probably wrap some more presents, and then we are going to go to this dinner theater, which they have instituted some safety guidelines, and that's just mostly what I'm doing right now is I'm checking ahead of time before I go. Are they wearing masks? Do they have plexiglass in front of the windows? Do they spread things out in between people so you're more than 6 feet away? And those kinds of things. Just precautions. Trying to be as careful as you can be, you know? Yeah. This new variant seems to just be sweeping. I saw on the news that the Broadway and the Rockettes are closing down again because New York is full of this new variant. I don't want to leave on that. I don't want to leave on a sad note. So we're not gonna, okay? Eat all the cookies. I probably should make some rice pudding on Friday. We'll have a meal. Kylie and Stevie are cooking. Last year they made steaks and broccolini, and we buy the food and they cook. That's part of their gift to us because they have no money. And they're both still students. And anyway, so yeah, they're going to come and cook for us on Friday night, and then on Saturday, Friday night, and then they're going to go to his parents, just be with their small group over there on Saturday. So gosh, it just came up so quickly, didn't it? It's just Christmas already. Boom, it's just here. We've had quite a bit of snow, so the Christmas lights look great out on all the houses. I hope that you have a safe and healthy holiday time, and you get to see the family members and give them hugs, if at all possible. I will see you all next time. Keep it colorful. Keep your fork. You'll never regret ripping back. No green bananas. Don't complain with your mouth full. Waddle on. Bye, everybody. Love you. Big hug. Big sheep hug. Big, giant sheep sweater hug.